podcast present by Spy News Agency. Tech layoffs shock young workers. The older people? Not so much. When Lyft laid off 13% of its workers in November, Kelly Chang was shocked to find herself among the 700 people who lost their jobs at the San Francisco company. It seemed like tech companies had so much opportunity, said Ms. Chang, 26. If you got a job, you made it. It was a sustainable path. Brian Pulliam, on the other hand, brushed off the news that the crypto exchange Coinbase was eliminating his job. Ever since the 48-year-old engineer was laid off from his first job at the video game company Atari in 2003, he said, he has asked himself once a year, if I were laid off, what would I do? The contrast between Ms. Chang's and Mr. Pulliam's reactions to their professional letdowns speaks to a generational divide that is becoming more clear as the tech industry, which expanded rapidly through the pandemic, swings toward mass layoffs. Microsoft said this week that it planned to cut 10,000 jobs, or roughly 5% of its workforce. And on Friday morning, Google's parent company, Alphabet, said it planned to cut 12,000 jobs, or about 6% of its total. Their cuts followed big layoffs at other tech companies like Meta, Amazon and Salesforce. Millennials and Generation Z, born between 1981 and 2012, started tech careers during a decade-long expansion when jobs multiplied as fast as iPhone sales. The companies they joined were conquering the world and defying economic rules. And when they went to work at outfits that offered bus rides to the office and amenities like free food and laundry, they weren't just taking on a new job, they were taking on a lifestyle. Few of them had experienced widespread layoffs. Baby boomers and members of Generation X, born between 1946 and 1980, on the other hand, lived through the biggest contraction the industry has ever seen. The dot-com crash of the early 2000s eliminated more than 1 million jobs, emptying Silicon Valley's Highway 101 of commuters as many companies folded overnight. It was a bloodbath, and it went on for years, said Jason DeMauro, a software engineer who was laid off twice in 18 months and was out of work for more than 6 months. As concerning as the current downturn is, and as much as I empathize with the people impacted, there's no comparison. Tech's generational divide is representative of a broader phenomenon. The year someone is born has a big influence on views about work and money. Early personal experiences strongly determine a person's appetite for financial risk, according to a 2011 study by the economists Ulrika Malmendier of the University of California, Berkeley, and Stefan Nagel of the University of Chicago. The study, which analyzed the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances from 1960 to 2007, found that people who came of age in the 1970s, when the stock market stagnated, were reluctant to invest in the early 1980s, when it roared. That trend reversed in the 1990s. Once you experience your first crash, things change, Professor Nagel said. You realize bad stuff happens and maybe you should be a bit more cautious. For Gen X, the dot-com collapse hit early in careers. From 2001 to 2005, the tech sector shed a quarter of its workers, according to an analysis of Bureau of Labor Statistics data by CompTIA, a technology education and research organization. The layoffs that swept the industry were worse than the recession of the early 1990s, when total jobs in the tech sector fell by 5%, and the global financial crisis in 2008, when the workforce contracted by 6%. In 2011, the tech sector began a hiring boom that would last a decade. It added an average of more than 100,000 jobs annually, and by 2021, it had recouped all the jobs it lost when the dot-com bubble burst. The job figures account for software, hardware, tech services and telecommunications companies, including Apple, Meta, Nvidia and Salesforce. But they may exclude some tech-related companies, such as Airbnb, Lyft and Uber, because of ambiguity in government labor market reporting that classifies some businesses as consumer services, said Tim Herbert, Chief Research Officer at CompTIA.